We're all looking for better outcomes, right? But so often we fall into this trap of just trying to work harder. What if the real secret isn't more effort, but a totally different approach? Today, we're going to dive into what's called the architecture of forethought. It's a mental shift that can completely change the results you get just by moving from being reactive to proactive. So take a second and really think about it. Your projects, your career, maybe even your personal goals. Which path are you actually on? Are you the one designing your future, or are you just sort of reacting to whatever life throws your way? Really, it all boils down to these two very different paths. Over on the left, you've got the reactive path. See that line? It's chaotic, it's jagged, and a lot of the time it's trending downward. But on the right, you have the proactive path. Smooth, intentional, always aiming up. And the one thing that separates them? It's a simple but really powerful concept. All right, first up, let's dive into a path that, well, it might feel a little too familiar for some of us. This is the reactive path. It's kind of the default mode for a lot of people, where we're living without a real plan, just constantly responding instead of creating. You know this feeling, I'm sure. It's that feeling where your entire day is just putting out one fire after another. The most urgent thing always grabs your attention, but it's not always the most important one. You're just bouncing from crisis to crisis, and you never have time to breathe, let alone actually plan ahead. And all that frantic energy? Man, it comes at a steep price. See, constant firefighting leads directly to wasted resources. And we're talking about everything here. Time you lose on rework, energy that gets totally drained by problems you could have prevented, and yeah, money spent cleaning up messes that never should have happened. And this leads to maybe the most frustrating part of this whole reactive mess. You feel like you're working so hard, but you're not actually going anywhere. When you're always looking down at your feet to stomp out the next fire, you can't look up and see where you want to go. The result? You're just stuck, stagnant growth. So, there you have it. That's the blueprint of the reactive path, a vicious cycle of firefighting, drained resources, and going nowhere fast. It's not just inefficient, it's absolutely exhausting. And let's be honest, it's completely unsustainable. Okay, but it doesn't have to be this way, right? What if there's a pivot point, a moment where we can actually consciously choose to change our trajectory? This is where the big idea comes into play. And this brings us to the core solution, the architecture of forethought. Now, this isn't some super complicated system you have to learn. It's way simpler. It's a mindset shift. It's that light bulb moment when you realize you can actually architect your future instead of just reacting to it. Now, what's so powerful about this is just how simple the core principle is. Let this one really sink in for a second. Simply thinking ahead can change the trajectory of our lives and projects. That's it. That's the difference between being a passenger along for the ride and actually being the driver. Okay, so now that we've had that light bulb moment, let's look at the flip side. What does it actually look like to walk the proactive path? What happens when you start designing your future with real intention? The benefits here? Well, they're pretty much the exact opposite of everything we just talked about. Instead of firefighting, you're anticipating obstacles before they happen. Instead of wasted resources, you get optimized workflows. And instead of stagnant growth, you get intentional, meaningful progress. It's a total game changer. And this slide just lays it all out, plain and simple. The difference in mindset is huge. Is your focus on putting out fires, or is it on preventing them in the first place? Is your workflow chaotic and inefficient, or is it optimized and smooth? And the big one, is the outcome stagnation, or is it intentional progress? When you see it like this, the choice is pretty obvious, isn't it? This all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we make forethought a practical tool that we can use every single day? Well, luckily, the source material gives us this fantastic analogy to work with. I want you to think of forethought as your own personal mental GPS system. I mean, think about it. If you were going to drive across the country, you wouldn't just hop in the car and start driving randomly, would you? Of course not. You'd plug the destination into your GPS. Forethought is that GPS. It doesn't make the journey any shorter, but it makes sure you avoid all the wrong turns, the traffic jams, and the dead ends. So this whole GPS idea, it really breaks down into 3 simple steps. First, you choose your destination. You have to set a clear, specific goal. Second, you plan your route. This is all about anticipating challenges. So if you're launching a new product, what are the top 3 things that could possibly go wrong? And what's your plan B for each? And finally, number 3, enjoy the journey. because with a good plan in place, you can optimize everything for a much, much smoother ride. So here's the bottom line, the big takeaway from all of this. You have the power to master your own trajectory. It's not really about luck or your circumstances. It all comes down to the way you choose to think. There's a line from the source that it really hits home for me. If you want to change your results, you must first change your timeline. You have to stop thinking only about what's on fire today. Start building for the future you actually want to live in. And that's really the best way to think about this. Forethought isn't some chore you have to do. It's a gift. It's a gift you give to your future self. It's the gift of less stress, more progress, and ultimately, a greater sense of control over your own story. And that brings us to the final and honestly the most important question of all. Now that you've seen these two paths laid out so clearly, what is the very first small step you're going to take today to shift onto your new proactive trajectory? Because your future self, they're waiting for your answer.